Thank you for joining us for another power-packed message from Dr. Myles Munroe, provided by Munroe Global Incorporated and MunroeGlobal.com. We transform followers into leaders and leaders into agents of change. We hope that this message is a blessing to you as you advance your life and discover your purpose. Now, let's go into the message.
I want to speak to you for a few minutes on the topic, rediscovering the kingdom concept. I want to deal with the original idea and message of Jesus Christ. There's no greater leader that ever walked the earth than a 30-year-old young man who was born in a village. And he grew up in a little town with one street and 11 houses. The name of that city, little village he brought up in, was Nazareth. He never moved outside of the borders of his country. And yet his name is found in every country. He never attended a university. And yet thousands of schools are built in his name. He never wrote a book. And yet there are millions of books written about him. He never built a business. And yet there are millions of business people that serve him through their business. This young man, 2,000 years ago, started an organization with 12 people. And that company that he started is the oldest company on earth. It is 2,000 years old, and that company has begun to grow after he left the planet. And that company is now the largest organization on earth. It has clients in the billions. And I work for that company. And I've come to talk about that company's interest in this planet. He came to earth to serve a product. And that product is a simple product. He never joined a religion. He was not a religious man. He was never a part of the Sanhedrin Council. He was never a Pharisee, nor was he a Sadducee. As a matter of fact, not only did he never join a religion, nor did he start a religion, but his number one opposition was religious people. His best friends were publicans and sinners. He was a mystery. His message was a simple message. He talked about a country. And right now, we need to talk about countries. Papua New Guinea is on the verge of becoming a global influence because of the wealth God has given you in this country. I spoke with your Prime Minister today, and he talked about the vast amount of natural resources that you have in your nation. The oil wells and the gas deposits and the gold mines and the masses of seafood in your oceans and the agricultural potential of your country. And I'm amazed at the wealth in this nation. And I believe that in the next few years, Papua New Guinea shall become one of the major players in the economies of the world. However, that responsibility requires a new kind of leadership who can manage the resources of this nation. Most of the countries in the world are failing. And we hear it every day. As a matter of fact, I call it the era of failure. We've heard terms like failed leaders, failed ideologies, failed philosophies, failed states and failed economies and failed banking systems. We hear people talk about failed educational systems, failed religious systems. Everything seems to be failing. It's like the whole world is falling apart. Europe is trying to recover from an economic disaster. America is trying to recover from an economic disaster. It seems as if the only nations who are surviving the global economy crisis are the third world countries. And I believe that's because we were left out of the system. Sometimes we thought that was a curse, but it was a blessing. Because the third world nations were not allowed to participate in the Industrial Revolution, nor were they allowed to participate in the economic systems and the banking systems of the world. And so when the systems collapsed, it didn't affect you. There are only 3 worlds on this planet. The first world is known as the old Europe. God wanted to use the first world to reach the whole world, but they turned their backs on God and became so sophisticated they failed God. And then there's a second world on the planet. It's called the New World. And that is the industrial states that began to expand through colonialism. And they oppressed millions of people in the world and took advantage of their resources and raped their countries and oppressed their people. And God wanted to use them to expand his ministry of the kingdom in the world through missions efforts. But most of them used that opportunity and the wealth of their exploits to oppress the very people they're supposed to set free. And now there's only one world left on the planet. The first world failed God. The second world has failed God. And now we got a group called the third world. There are no other worlds after the third world. That means God only has one more group of people to depend on. And this time, we will promise God we will not fail him. The third world people are seen as a negative. But I've come with good news tonight. I am proud to be a third world man. Because there's no other world for God to use. And God has turned his face toward the so-called third world nations. And this is why the largest churches in the world are in the third world countries. This is why the fastest economic development is taking place in third world companies. This is why the people who are beginning to feel the authority of God and the expansion of his spirit are in developing countries. And Papua New Guinea is about to explode. But you must remember the purpose for your emergence. We must not fail God. The earth is in trouble. And when God saw the planet in trouble, when Adam disobeyed God, God's answer to the planet's problem was an interesting answer. It's found in a statement made by that 30-year-old young rabbi. He said these words written by one of his disciples, John. He said, "For God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son." For God so loved the world. I want to remind all of you, maybe for the first time, you may discover that there's a difference between the earth and the world. Never confuse the two. There's nothing wrong with the earth. The earth is innocent. The earth is pure. The earth is God's original production. The Bible does not say, for God so loved the earth. It says, for God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son into the world with a message. And he said, whoever believes that message will not perish, but shall experience an abundant life, not just in this life, but beyond the grave. The next verse says, for God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. Even the church, the Christian church, didn't understand this. God did not send his Son to deal with the earth. He sent his Son to deal with the world. There's a difference. And he said, I didn't come to condemn the world, but to save the world. He didn't say he came to save the earth. There are many governments around the world who are having conferences discussing saving the earth. And they talk about environmental policy. They talk about anti-pollution policy. They talk about cleaning up the air. They talk about going green. And they're talking about the earth. But they're not talking about the world. And the problem on earth is not the earth. The problem on earth is the world. Let me explain the difference. There are two worlds on earth. And if you're listening to me with a pen and a piece of paper, I want you to write this down. And don't ever forget this, young people. The earth has two worlds on it. First of all, in the book of Psalm, written by King David, and King David was not a religious man, he was a politician. He was a king. And King David said these words, the earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. And then he shifts and he says, and the world also, and they that dwell in it, belongs to the Lord. David separates the earth from the world. The earth belongs to the Lord, he says. He owns it. But then he says, and the world also is the Lord's, and they that dwell in it. I want you to remember what I'm going to share with you for the next few moments. There is a big difference between the world and the earth. And Papua New Guinea must know the difference quickly, because the earth that has been given to Papua New Guinea by God to manage is over 1,000 islands in the ocean. And God gave this to you. He delivered you from colonial oppression. He delivered you from imperialism, and he gave you, the people of Papua New Guinea, he gave you property. He gave you land. He gave you a piece of earth. And now God is saying, govern that for me. Manage that for me. And that's why you became a nation. 36 years ago, you became a country because God wanted you, young man, and you, young woman, to manage a piece of earth for him. The earth is still his property, but he made you the manager. And God must really trust you in Papua New Guinea, because under the earth, he gave you gold and oil and copper. And he gave you oceans with millions of dollars of seafood. He trusts you with his planet. But there's a difference between the earth and the world. First of all, the word earth is important. It's the word tierra. This word is used in the Bible to describe the physical planet. The word tierra means the physical earth. Earth is always referring to the physical planet, the dirt and the mountains and the water and the oceans. And the earth is referred to the hills and the valleys and the trees. This is the earth. The earth is the physical planet that God created. But the world is different. The word world in the Bible is the word cosmos. It's a different word from the earth. What does the word cosmos mean? The word cosmos is very important because when the Bible talks about the world, it uses the word cosmos, and it means, number one, governing systems. Number two, powers of authority. The word world also means controlling systems, the world. Fourthly, the word cosmos means systems of control. It also means the systems that influence life on the planet. The word world, therefore, is the banking system. It is the economic system. It is the political systems. It is the athletic systems and the medical systems and the social systems and the cultural systems. These are called the world. The earth is pure. It's the physical planet. But the world are the systems that affect the earth. You will never hear a tree cursing God. You'll never hear a dog or a cat curse God. But humans are amazing. God has no problem with roaches. He has no problem with rats. God has no problem with birds. His number one problem is with you. The systems that men control. So where does pollution come from? The earth never pollutes itself. Men pollute the earth. The earth will never withdraw its wealth from men. But men take the wealth of the earth and hoard it from others. The earth will never cause people to starve. But men will use their systems to withhold the bounty of the earth from people who are starving in order to keep prices high. Ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing wrong with the earth. It is the system that controls the earth. It's called the world. Something went wrong with the world that was put on the earth. And the first world that was placed on the earth was called the kingdom of heaven. And Adam was in charge of that first system, our forefather. And when Adam disobeyed his government in heaven. He declared independence from the kingdom and made the earth an independent colony. Then man became the rulers of earth without God. And Jesus saw that problem, and he said these words, I am the light, not of the earth. I am the light of the world. I am the light of the system. The word light in Hebrew doesn't mean absence of illumination. The word light here means knowledge. The opposite of knowledge is ignorance. He's telling us that you are ruling the earth based on ignorance, and I have come to bring the original knowledge back to man. And this is why he said, without me, you can do nothing, because you are living in darkness, in ignorance. You're trying to manage the earth without God's knowledge. Earth was never created to be governed by earth. Earth was created to be governed through man from heaven. And therefore, every country on earth needs information from another place. And that's why, for God so loved the world, he didn't come to find someone on earth to fix it. He had to send someone from another place into the earth. Because the solution to earth is not on earth. He had to send someone from another country called heaven back into earth to restore earth and to bring light back to earth. In John chapter 8, verse 23, Jesus said, you are from below, but I am from above. You are from this world, he says, but I am not of this system. I want you to read the Bible again for the first time. Now you understand the statement, don't you? He's not talking about the earth. He says, you are from below. You are from earth. Your mind is on earthly things. He said, but I am not from below. I am from above. The question, can we fix the earth without heaven? And that's the challenge of Papua New Guinea. No government of this country is smart enough to rule this country. This country is so complicated that to rule this country with over 800 languages and 1,000 islands, with people scattered in the mountains and little keys, will demand the wisdom of God. And that is why any government on earth who attempts to rule without God will always produce a disaster. I am proud of Papua New Guinea because your constitution has included in it that this nation shall be governed based on the biblical principles. That's a wise country. It means that you have invited God to interfere in your legislation, and I hope that you will leave him in there. In other words, Jesus said, to solve earth's problem, you must have information from another place. One of the smartest men that ever lived on earth, according to science, is Albert Einstein. He is the one who discovered the the mystery of the atoms. He's the one that studied energy and produced revelations about nuclear fusion. A very intelligent man. And here's what he said, and I'm going to quote him. He said, "The world is a dangerous place to live, not because of the people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about the evil." Some of the most useless people on earth are Christians. They love to criticize, but they won't get involved in changing things. They talk about what's going wrong, but they don't want to get involved in the system to change it. As a matter of fact, most of the theology of Christianity makes them useless. Because Christianity teaches, "I'll fly away, oh glory." It talks about leaving earth and rapture and abandoning society and going to heaven and forgetting about the evil and not getting involved, and don't get involved in politics and don't get involved in sports and don't get involved in entertainment and stay away from this and stay away from that. How can you change something if you stay away from it? You can never transform what you avoid. The world is the problem. And the command of Jesus Christ is this: go into all the cosmos, the system, the government, the controlling systems. He says, go into the system. This is why I was sent here. I was sent here because you are a very young nation. And the vultures are gathering to attack you. The investors are coming in to pounce upon your resources. And the temptation to be corrupt is high. And to sell your soul for a pot of porridge is very dangerous. We need leaders in this country, in the church, in government, in business, and in the social environment, who fear God and will not compromise. The greatest need on earth is a new world. And this is why the message that Jesus taught is so important. I want to repeat something that I said earlier today. These are the things that will destroy any country. And I want you to write them down, because we need leaders who will avoid these things. The first one is politics without principles. The second one is pleasure without conscience. The third one is wealth without work. These will destroy us as a country. The fourth is knowledge without character. The fifth is business without morality. And the sixth is science without humanity. And finally, number 7, what will destroy us as a country? Worship without sacrifice. We need leaders in our countries who will not violate their conscience for pleasure, who will not try to gain wealth without honest labor. Corruption is a product of the pursuit of wealth without work. And that's why the Bible says a man should work with his hands, that which is lawful. And that means no one who wants to be an effective leader sacrifices their morals for money. And this is why the world needs a new breed of leaders. I am convinced that the reason why the economies of the world are collapsing is because God is involved. God is exposing man's weaknesses. He's showing man that his systems are defective. God is showing man that without God, man is futile. God is reducing man to him. In Europe, many people are going back to churches because they can't find a job. In Europe, many bankers are now becoming spiritual because their secular ideologies are not working anymore. God is reducing earth to heaven. He's bringing us back to our knees. All of mankind are hoping for a new economy and a new country. This is why everybody is moving around the world. But let me warn you that there will be a lot of people coming to Papua New Guinea in the next 10 years looking for jobs. And that's why you must get education quickly. Because if you don't get education quickly as a people, another nation shall come in and run your country. Because people are looking for a new country. They want a country that will promise them a better life for their families. And that's why many foreigners will move to Papua New Guinea. And the same thing that happened to you 200 years ago will happen again. This time you'll be colonized by people you invite in. Young people, go to school. Educate yourself. Become intellectually stimulated so you can run your own country's business and not be the victim of foreigners again. Because the whole world is collapsing and people are looking for a country. And this is why migration and immigration is so serious in the world, because people will change countries to find a better world. And there are people who are moving by the thousands every week. Some of them are hiding in big boats, in ships, trying to find another life. They risk their children on boats to move to another country to try and find another life because everybody's looking for a new country. There are people who left Papua New Guinea and they went looking for another country. Some of them are coming back. Because God is about to bless Papua New Guinea. The question is, why are people looking for another country? The answer is, the fall of man was the loss of a country, not the loss of a religion. I want to read a statement written by the writers in Scripture, because they describe to us what is wrong with our world. All of us are looking for a better life for our families. We want to have a better life for our children. And I am here to tell you some surprising news. God's promise was also another country. God knew we lost a country. His promise was a new country. That new country that we're looking for is one that we used to have. It's called heaven. We didn't come from earth. We came from heaven. I'm going to make an announcement again. You are an alien. You are not from earth. You came to earth to 7,000 years ago from your Father in heaven. You don't even have a spirit. You are a spirit. And your body is your earth suit. And you were sent to this earth to dominate this planet for God, your Father. So you are not from earth. You came to earth from heaven. Men are spending billions of dollars looking for aliens on planets. And the good news is you're sitting next to one right now. Let the aliens shout hallelujah. And that is why the greatest man that ever lived said these words: be in the world, but not of the world. Be in the system, but don't be from the system. And that is why your future is bright tonight. Because when the system fails, your country is still in good order. Oh, come on, somebody. Give God a hand for heaven. When God called Abraham after Adam fell, he didn't promise Abraham heaven. Do you read the Bible? He promised Abraham a country. He said, Abraham, I will give you a nation and a country, because I know that's what you're looking for. All humanity are suffering from non-immigrant status. We know we are not from here, but we don't know where we're from. So the government sent me tonight to tell you where you're from. You came from heaven. Earth is not your home, it's your assignment. So we are looking for a country. Let me remind you that we are looking for our citizenship. We are not from here. We were sent here to represent our government and to operate and manage this property for our government in heaven. You were sent to earth to dominate the earth. Let me read a verse that you never saw in the Bible before. It's found in Hebrews chapter 11. And every time religious people read this chapter, they always read this chapter and talk about faith. They misunderstand the chapter. As a matter of fact, the faith movement was built on this chapter. It's built on verse 1 of chapter 11, which is incorrect, because you should never build a doctrine on a verse. So you must read the whole chapter. The chapter is not about the doctrine of faith. The chapter is about a list of people who kept on believing something that they never saw. And if you read the chapter, it tells you what they were looking for. Now, most people have taught faith so they could get some things. Things like cars and food and clothing, money, houses. And most of the modern Christianity is built on faith for things. But when you read this chapter, none of these people were looking for food and clothing and houses and money. Let's read what it says. Hebrews 11 verse 13 says, all of these people were still living by what? Faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance. And they admitted that they were what? Aliens and strangers on earth. Uh-oh. Verse 14. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country that they had left, they would have had opportunity to return. But instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. When you read the chapter, it lists who these people are. Abraham, Moses, Joshua, David, Daniel, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi. They were not looking for food and clothes. They were looking for a country. Because countries are failing. Jesus came to earth not to bring a religion. He came to earth to bring a country back. He came to earth to bring a country called heaven back to earth. And I use the term back to earth because heaven used to be here. And 2,000 years ago, the king of the kingdom came back to the colony. And he brought with him the governor on the inside. And he said to us, for 3.5 years, the governor is with you, but he shall be in you. He said, but for him to come in you, I got to let him out. And your body is supposed to be the governor's mansion. But your body is filthy because of sin. So I will go to that cross, and my blood shall cleanse your life and your body and make you holy again. And then I will give you back the governor, and he shall live inside you again. And the kingdom shall come back. Oh, hallelujah. So the number one reason why Jesus came to earth was not to start a religion, was not even to die on the cross. His number one motivation for coming to earth was to bring the governor of heaven back to earth.